Abby Stockton lifts weights at Muscle Beach, challenging expectations for women in sports. Mr. T serves in the U.S. military before television fame. Harrison Ford works as a carpenter while pursuing acting opportunities. Bobby Fischer studies chess on the subway in 1962, training constantly. Arnold Schwarzenegger dominates 1970s bodybuilding before moving toward acting. Stephen Fry and Rowan Atkinson develop early comedy routines before major success. Frank Zappa visits London in 1975 with his mother present. Dr. Seuss sketches the Grinch in the 1970s during creative work. A woman and child walk through post-war Tyneside in 1950 during Reconstruction. Soviet children sit under UV lamps to combat vitamin D deficiency. Windmill Theatre performers pass Tower Beach in 1947 as London recovers. The Rocket Express train carries children through a Philadelphia department store. Philips introduces the compact disc in 1979, improving clarity and storage. Seattle tests electric vehicles and charging stations in 1973. Families skate on frozen ponds during the 1930s winters, creating lasting traditions. A sergeant feeds a small cat with an eyedropper in 1952. Mussolini visits a wounded soldier in 1941. The soldier's fearful look defied propaganda. HMS Hood, crew photographed before battle. Hours later, the ship sank with only 3 survivors. Elvis Presley receives his Army haircut in 1958, marking a major change in his early career. Hungarian soldiers cook field meals in 1938 as Europe moves closer to war. A bride steps from a bombed home to marry during the Blitz, refusing disruption. Major Dick Bong sits with his wife in his P-38 fighter named Marge. Queen Elizabeth meets RAF Warboys bomber crews in winter, encouraging them during difficult missions. Annie Edson Taylor stands beside her Niagara Falls barrel with her surviving cat. People study a new map of Europe in 1918 as empires collapse after war. Juliane Koepcke survives a 2-mile fall into the Peruvian rainforest after a plane strike. Frederick Fleet, Titanic lookout, spots the iceberg too late but survives the sinking. Nancy Wake evades pursuit across occupied Europe while leading resistance actions against German forces. Richard Lasher sees Mount St. Helens erupt directly ahead while biking in 1980. Queen Elizabeth visits RAF Warboys in 1944, boosting spirits of pilots and ground crews. Hiroshima remains devastated in 1946, 1 year after the atomic bomb. A GM electric car charges beside the EBS Sundancer during early experiments in cleaner transport. A dress made of German banknotes shows the collapse of 1923 inflation. Harry S. Truman photographed with Battery D near Verdun during World War I. Engineers test Beetle's rubber sole in EMI's control room for production quality. Georgia families work New Deal farm settlements in 1938 through shared labor. Queen Elizabeth meets bomber crews beside an Avro Lancaster during a tense winter. John Lennon signs an autograph for Chapman hours before the shooting. Arnold Schwarzenegger practices ballet to improve stage control for bodybuilding. A 1921 ice cream truck urges customers to enjoy a daily serving. A zebra-drawn carriage moves through London in 1913. Winston Churchill builds a cottage for his daughters at Chartwell in 1928. Maurice Guerin wins the 1903 Tour de France after leading every stage. George H.W. Bush holds young George W. Bush in New Haven, 1947. Tourists pose before the Great Sphinx in 1910 during early mass travel. Italian families travel in Fiat 500s during the 1967 summer season. A woman is fined at Rockaway Beach in 1946 for breaking swimwear rules. Workers assemble Rolleiflex cameras in Germany in 1949 with careful craftsmanship. Spruce goose wings move through city streets in 1946 toward Long Beach Assembly. USS Joseph P. Kennedy Jr. supports the 1962 America's Cup races in Newport. Subway stands appear in 1985, offering newspapers and daily essentials. Czechoslovak crews used a MiG-15 jet engine to clear heavy snow from tracks in 1970. A sailor kisses a nurse in Times Square as Japan surrenders in 1945. 6 Marines raise the American flag on Mount Suribachi during the Battle of Iwo Jima. Dorothea Lange photographs Florence Thompson in 1936, reflecting Depression hardship faced by struggling families. The Hindenburg bursts into flames while landing in New Jersey in 1937, ending airship travel. Einstein sticks out his tongue in a playful 1951 birthday photograph. A GM electric car charges beside the EBS Sundancer during early efficiency tests. Brazil builds Brasilia in the 1950s as a new inland capital. Tehran University students gather in 1971 during rapid modernization. John Lennon and Yoko Ono walk calmly through Cannes in 1971. The Beatles perform their rooftop concert in London in 1969. Young Frankenstein begins filming in 1973 with Gene Wilder and Madeline Kahn. A Commonwealth team crosses Antarctica in 1957 through extreme conditions. Iron workers eat lunch on a beam during RCA building construction without safety gear. A falling man is photographed during the September 11th attacks, showing the day's tragic desperation. Orville Wright pilots the first powered flight in 1903 as Wilbur runs beside him. Winston Churchill gives the V sign during a 1941 visit, boosting British morale. A lone man blocks tanks in Beijing in 1989, photographed from a balcony. The Beatles walk across Abbey Road for a quick album cover session. 6-year-old Ruby Bridges enters an all-white school escorted by federal marshals in New Orleans. Louis Armstrong plays trumpet for his wife near the pyramids during a 1961 cultural tour. Astronomers release the first black hole image in 2019 using global telescope data. Dorothea Lange photographs a man waiting in a relief line during Depression hardship. Picasso draws temporary shapes with a flashlight as Gon Mili photographs the light trails. Kirk Douglas signs Novella Perugini's thigh at Lido Beach during a lively 1953 moment. Sue Lyon watches director John Huston on the night of the Iguana set in late 1962. A German soldier resting in the Caucasus in 1943 showed exhaustion from brutal terrain and shortages. In Iwo Jima in 1945, a soldier read a letter that connected him to home. In January 1944, a Japanese prisoner surrendered in the Marshall Islands under tense conditions. Occupied Dutch villagers knelt in prayer as a quiet act of resistance. Civil disobedience in 1941 grew as people reacted to early deportations. In Okinawa, Colonel Francis Fenton knelt over the coffin of his son, who died beside him in battle. A U.S. Marine offered a cigarette to a trapped Japanese soldier on Iwo Jima in 1945, while another watched for danger. After the war, German women cleared rubble in cities like Berlin under armed supervision. In Vienna in 1947, a mother held a photo of her missing son while seeking answers. The Battle of Okinawa in 1945 left soldiers with hollow eyes after months of relentless fighting. During the Bataan Death March in April 1942, thousands died during the forced trek in extreme heat. Amid London's Blitz, soldiers carried injured children from crushed homes. In 1942, a Soviet soldier fed a trembling girl among the ruins. German troops outside Leningrad froze and starved as winter became the deadliest threat. At Omaha Beach, wounded American soldiers received first aid on the sand they had just stormed. As Germans advanced in 1941, the Red Army burned villages and crops to slow them. Wounded veterans returned home carrying visible and hidden injuries from years of war. In Hiroshima on August 6, 1945, the atomic bomb reduced the city to ruins and killed tens of thousands. On May 8, 1945, U.S. troops in Okinawa heard of victory in Europe while their own battle raged on. A German soldier freed after 12 years in Soviet captivity reunited with his long-lost son. In Voronezh in July 1942, a Soviet commissar led his troops moments before being killed. British children in 1941 trained with gas masks during fears of chemical attacks. Shoichi Yokoi lived hidden in Guam's jungle for nearly 30 years until his 1972 discovery. Janusz Korczak stayed with his orphans to their deaths at Treblinka in August 1942. Hans-Georg Henke, age 16, was photographed crying after his capture in Germany's final days. Near Moscow in December 1941, an elderly woman embraced a young Soviet soldier during a brief moment of hope. During the Blitz, rescuers saved puppies from rubble as families clung to their animals. Finland's Corporal Jaakko Ritaniemi stood beside a 75K/40 gun during the Continuation War after destroying 22 Soviet tanks. Polish soldiers in 1942 raised Wojtek the Bear, who carried artillery crates at Monte Cassino. On April 8, 1945, the B-17G Wee Willie broke apart after a fatal flak hit, leaving only the pilot alive. Near Kiev in 1941, a Soviet officer raised his pistol and led a charge in the moment later called combat. Early 1945 in the Ardennes, a recon trooper fed a machine gun belt into a frozen .30 caliber weapon.